Question: what are 3 tips for understanding the Bible? First, context. Context is the thing that people miss the most. It's probably the source of the most wrong understanding and wrong teaching when it comes to the Bible. Context is king. And context is not just the verse you're reading, but the verses around it and the surrounding chapters, and even places, all the way in a completely different part of the Bible that are referring to the same subject. You can't just pluck something out of context and make it mean something that it doesn't mean, okay? The second thing would be figures of speech. Figures of speech are used a lot in the Bible, and they're used with a very specific, divinely designed purpose by the Holy Spirit, okay? They're not haphazard, they're very specific, okay? One of those, an example of that, obviously you know about parables, right? You know about that. That's one figure of speech. Another one's called metonymy, which is a change of noun. So you'll see places in the Old Testament where it's talking about Jacob long centuries after Jacob's been dead. Well, that's an example of metonymy, which is a change of noun where the name Jacob is being used in place of all of the nation of Israel. So when Jacob's referring to the nation of Israel, but he uses the name Jacob, just as like the person, but he's talking about the whole nation. That's a form of metonymy, change of noun. And then the third thing will be Eastern and Hebrew customs. We live in America, I do, the United States of America, and if somebody came over here from another culture and heard me talk about eating hot dogs, they might be a little bit confused and concerned. No, we don't eat dogs, right? A hot dog, we know what a hot dog is, right? It's basically a type of sausage in a bun, sometimes with mustard or on it, whatever. But if you're not from that culture, you wouldn't understand that, if you're not familiar with that. Well, when people read the Bible, you have to understand it's from an Eastern culture and a Hebrew culture. There's the Eastern aspect, but there's also the Hebrew aspect. And so you have to understand those cultures, those idioms of that culture, so that you're not reading an Eastern book with a Western mindset. And there's some good books that you can get on that, on Eastern, matters and customs of the Bible and things of that sort. If you do a search online, you can find there's a lot of good books on that. So context, figures of speech, and Eastern customs. Those are 3 good tips to help you understand the Bible.